One big question facing the New York Islanders this season: where should Mathew Schaefer play? We'll break down the alternatives and their impact on Schaefer and the Islanders next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad that you could join us today and talk a little Islanders hockey. We have got a busy show today. We're going to talk about Mathew Schaefer and where he should play this year. We'll answer some more of your mailbag questions, and you've got a lot of them, and they are good ones, I will add. And we will continue our look at each of the Islanders' 2025 draft picks with an in-depth scouting report on Sam Laurila. So lots to get to on today's show. Let's start at the beginning. Mathew Schaefer, where should he play? And there really are only a few options. The 3 major options are he plays in college, which is looking less likely as we get deeper and deeper into the summer because he has to apply, get accepted, go through all of those machinations. And any team that takes him would probably realize they're only getting him for 1 season. So far, that doesn't seem to be something that Schaefer is favoring. We haven't heard anything about it, but that is one option. The second option is he goes back to the OHL, plays for the Erie Otters again in juniors. He only played 17 games for them a year ago. At the age of 18, and he won't turn 18 until September, Schaefer is not eligible to play in the AHL this year. So the options are college, the OHL, juniors, or the Islanders. Now, there is sort of that hybrid, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But those are the 3 big options. The fact that he missed so much time last year, only played 17 games for Erie, maybe makes me think that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to spend a year there. I don't think it would be the most challenging option of the 3. I don't think it would help his development as much as a year playing in the NCAA, for example, which would be a tougher class of opposition, older players, bigger players, faster players, but not as fast and as big and as strong as NHL players. So you sort of have, that middle ground, so to speak. The hybrid option, and we did kind of mention it, is that he's allowed to play up to 9 games with the Islanders without burning a year of his entry-level deal. He plays the 9 games and then spends the rest of the season back at Erie of the OHL. To me, the most important factor in this decision is not about 2025, 2026. It's not about this season. The Islanders organization, Matthew Darche, ownership, they can talk all they want about, we want to remain competitive, but they are retooling. When you trade Brock Nelson and you trade Noah Dobson, you're retooling. And I don't think they're done yet. You're accumulating picks and prospects, whether it's Cal Ritchie, whether it's Cole Iserman, the 3 first-round picks you got this year, you have 2 more coming in 2026. You're retooling, and the guys you brought in, short term, your Tony DeAngelos, your Jonathan Drouhans, are designed to sort of hold the fort so the team remains competitive until these younger players, picks and prospects, are ready to be regular contributors in the NHL. So to me, the key question that the Islanders have to answer is, what is best in the long-term development of Mathew Schaefer? What will make Mathew Schaefer the best hockey player he can be 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road? If he plays another year in junior, for example, I'm fine with that. If he plays for the Islanders and only ends up playing 50, 55 games because they want to pace him and rest him and let him watch sometimes from the press box to see that perspective, I'm okay with that. But do not rush him and do not have him spend 60 games in the press box unless there's an injury again, which would be very bad. But they rushed Josh Bailey, for example. There were other players back when, the Islanders were struggling in the early 2000s that ended up being rushed to the NHL. And that's not what you want to do. If I'm the New York Islanders, he comes to training camp, see how he does in the preseason, see how he looks in training camp. If he looks really good, give him those 9 games as a tryout. And it may not be the first 9 games of the season. He may sit for 3 games and, you go from there. But give him the 9 games. And then after the 9 games, figure out, is this kid ready to play in the NHL? Or does he need more seasoning? And if he needs more seasoning, go back to Erie and play. Play 29 minutes a game, first power play, penalty kill, be on the ice when your team is needing a big goal. Munch those minutes, learn by being on the ice. Because if he does make the New York Islanders, very few NHL rookies make a big impact in their draft year. And even fewer defensemen make an impact in their draft year because it takes more time on average for defensemen to become NHL ready. Why? Well, the same reason it takes power forwards longer. You need more physicality as a defenseman. You need to be able to move opposing players out of your crease. You need to battle for position in front of your goal. You need to win puck battles behind the goal and in the corners. All of these things require a certain amount of size. And most athletes, hockey players, gain more muscle when they're 19, 20, 22, 25 than when they're 18. That's just the way the training and the whole thing works. So if he's not ready, fine. If he is ready, please expect that he'll probably be on the third pair. He will probably see some second power play unit minutes, but he's probably only going to play 12 to 17 minutes a game. That number may go up over the course of the season, depending on how he does. And do not expect him to come right into the NHL and give you 10 goals and 60 points. That's not, look, if it happens, great, but it's not a reasonable expectation. The key is developing this kid and getting him to be the best player over the long term that the Islanders can have. So he's got to play, and he's got to be used in the right way and in the right amount. And hopefully we see him take that step. And the Islanders have depth at defenseman. Now, this defense core is by no means one of the better ones in the league. It's not elite by any stretch of the imagination. But you've got Romanov, Polak, Pelech, Mayfield, DeAngelo, and Boqvist, all as NHL ready. You've got Isaiah George, who has obviously NHL experience and may be ready for a bigger role. And you've got Schaefer. And as far as I'm concerned, the same thing with Isaiah George. I don't want him to be the seventh defenseman. Don't want to see him or Schaefer in the press box for the majority of the season. Yeah, they can sit occasionally if they have a bad game or if they're a little exhausted or whatever. If they need to sit for a game or two, fine. But if at the end of the season, Mathew Schaefer is not playing enough, or if Isaiah George is not playing enough, it hurts their development. And it's all about development right now. This team is more about 2-3 years down the road than it is about this year. They may not be willing to admit it, but that is A, what they're really doing, and B, what they should be doing. This is a retool. You got to get out of the mess, the muddy middle that Lou Lamoriello left us in. Everydayers, we've been talking about this for more than a year, maybe 2. 4 years in a row, the Islanders did not make the playoffs or were eliminated in the first round. Haven't won a playoff round in the last 4 seasons. You take a step back to take 2 steps forward, and you keep building this team. And Mathew Schaefer is a big part of that plan. But if he's not on the roster this year, I can live with it. If he plays 9 games with the Islanders, I can live with it. If he spends the whole season in college or in the OHL, it's okay. Do what's best for the team and the player over the long haul. I am worried more about the future than I am about this season. I won't say that often, but right now, based on where this team is and who they have in the organization, that's what I'm saying. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We'll dip into the mailbag. You have some great questions. We're going to talk about them. We'll continue our look at scouting the draft picks from this year. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, we'll look at the brief Islanders career of the oldest player in Islanders history. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you could splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is an official partner of Major League Baseball, and that makes it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, whether it's Mets, Yankees, or somebody else. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Let's go back to the mailbag because you guys have some great questions. And look, there's a lot of them. First one is going to come from Jeff from Glendale. And Jeff, thank you for the email. It said, I've been an everydayer for over a year now, and I really enjoy the show. Thank you, Jeff. In your conversation with Gary Harding the other day, I heard something discussed that I haven't heard you mention since I started listening. Our ECHL team, the Worcester Railers. We're in a bit of a dead spot now. I want to hear more about the Worcester team and the ECHL in general, what function it really serves in the big picture. He went through every player who played last season, and the only players who ever played in the ECHL were Mark Gatcom, Tristan Lennox, Jakob Skarek, and Marcus Hogberg. And he went through the Worcester roster, and out of the 46 players who played at least one game, only 4 were Islanders draft picks: Justin Gill, Matthias Rajaniemi, Christian Krieger, and Henrik Tikkanen. So what is the primary purpose of the ECHL? Is it simply to act as depth for Bridgeport? Is there a larger picture I'm not seeing? So, Jeff, to keep it relatively short, yes, it is the equivalent of AA baseball, but it is kind of like the farm team for your farm team. Unlike AA baseball, which, as you did mention in the email, and I abridged it a little bit, some of your top prospects start in, play in AA, and then some of them skip AAA and go right to the majors. In hockey, the AA team, the ECHL team, some of your lower round picks are going to go there to develop if they need more work. Sometimes if your AHL roster is full, if the team is full of really good players, you need more space for some of those draft picks and prospects who don't have a role in the AHL. You want them to play, so better to have them play in the ECHL than sit in the press box in the AHL. And, when players get hurt, both on the Islanders themselves and in the AHL, you need a pool of players who you can bring up. And it's a chain reaction thing. When a player gets hurt on the NHL roster, for example, the Islanders called up Grant Hutton last year or Isaiah George. So then Bridgeport needed a player, and they would call up a player from Worcester to fill that spot. So that's kind of the primary purpose of, where we're coming from with this. So next question is from Frankie in North Belmore. And Frankie says, is this year bringing back some 2001, 2002 vibes? Or do you think that Yashin and Pekka were way better than Horvat and Barzal? In 01-02, we also had a great goalie in Chris Osgood. The rest to me was question marks. Oleg Kavasha, obviously not as talented as Shabanov. And it's not knowing what to expect from Duclair and Drouin just yet. I think the defense is just as good as that year. We have a new GM, and in my opinion, a good coach in Wah. Has the game changed that much, or is it just me watching too many highlights? Well, Frankie, thank you, first of all, for the question. I can see definitely some parallels between this year and 01-02. You mentioned Osgood. You got Sorokin. You got a big 1-2 of Yashin and Pekka versus Horvat and Barzal. I think Yashin and Pekka maybe gave you more goal scoring and maybe a little more leadership. But overall, I think there are some parallels. I just think the supporting cast, there would have to be some pleasant surprises. You mentioned Duclair, Drouin, like all of those guys who, if Duclair and Drouin have good seasons, if Holmstrom continues to develop, if Lee continues to give you 25 goals plus, you're starting to pile if upon if upon if. But are the Islanders capable of surprising some people this year? Yeah, I might be among the list of people surprised, but I think it is possible. So thank you very much for that question. Next, we go to Greg. Greg did not say where he was from, but he said, planning toward the future, I'd like to see players move for younger, faster, and more physical type players. What players do you see will be moved this year, and what would the expected return be? Keep up the good work, Greg. Greg, thanks again for the email and the kind words. Look, I think it is very possible that Anders Lee and JG Pageau would top the list of players that would be moved by the trade deadline. There are other players who could fit. And to me, at this point, you want to add a combination of draft picks and prospects, younger players who are NHL ready now or in a year or two, to help make this team the goal that Matthew Darche laid out, which was a consistent contender. a la the Avalanche, the Stars, the Lightning, the Panthers, the Oilers, the Golden Knights. These are the teams you want to emulate, teams who get to the top and stay at the top. So to me, those are the guys that are on the last year of their contracts. Look, if you can move a Pierre Engvall, if you could move either Ryan Pollock or Adam Pelech at some point, yeah, I would try to move on from a couple of more of those kind of guys to try to build up and get the team younger, faster, and more skilled. We'll see how Matthew Darche handles the situation. And last but not least, we have one more question, and this one is from a very familiar person, Thomas from Queens. And Thomas says, do you see the Islanders trading George? No, I don't think so. Is it impossible? No, I could see maybe another team asking for George as a part of a deal. He certainly has a bright future. He started off well, stumbled a little bit over time, but he's still 20. Very young for a defenseman, especially one who wasn't drafted in the first round. So I give Isaiah George more time. Hopefully he is a full-time NHLer either this year or next year, depending on how well he plays, what kind of openings we see, whether other players are traded away. I wouldn't be shocked or overly, overwhelmed with surprise if Isaiah George is traded, but I don't expect it to be the case. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the mailbags, and we will be doing more mailbag questions throughout the summer and really all year round. So definitely send us your emails and DMs and comments. And if you're DMing or commenting, please let me know you want it to be a question for the show. Leave your first name and where you're from, or you email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com and leave your first name, where you're from. We'll mention you on the show when we talk about your question. We are going to move, by the way, to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule for the next few weeks, starting Monday. So we go into summer mode, and we will still be bringing you great Islanders coverage. We'll be doing that. So again, just a heads up that we go to 3 shows a week starting next week, and we've got a lot of great plans for the summer. We've got more to get to today. We continue our look at Islanders draft picks, scouting them. Sam Laurila, the defenseman, in the 5th round. We'll talk about him. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, the oldest Islander. He was born in 1932. He's been gone for 13 years now. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We'll talk about him and his impact on the team next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So we continue looking at the Islanders draft picks, and we'll do a little scouting on each of them every day. As you'll remember, yesterday, we continued with that process with Burke Hood, the goalie, in the 6th round. Today, Sam Laurila, the left shot defenseman out of Moorhead, Minnesota, 6 feet, 185 pounds. He will turn 19 in September. Played for the Fargo Force last year of the USHL. 8 goals, 41 points in 57 games. Had an even plus minus, had 1 assist in 2 playoff games. So Laurila, again, is an overage player. He was draft eligible last year, wasn't selected, and he was 4th in the USHL in scoring among defensemen. And he is more of a defensive defenseman. He doesn't have a big offensive upside, according to most scouts, or at least didn't until this year, where as an overage junior, he, kind of stepped it up a little bit and was leading the rush for his team in Fargo. And he doesn't have a great shot, but he finds shooting lanes, which is always important, has good lateral skating, which is better. He's better at skating laterally than he is like straight ahead. And he's got really good hockey sense. He is a smart hockey player who can control the tempo of a game when he has the puck on his stick. Now, he's heading to the University of North Dakota this year. That is a big step up in the level of competition from juniors. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on him and see how much of an offensive role he develops. And again, I'm not even going to look so much at the statistics for the year, but is he doing more offensively? Is he playing better defensively and overall at the end of the season at UND than he did in October? That is something I want to watch. Ultimately, according to scouts, a middle pair defenseman is his ceiling. We will see whether or not the Islanders can help him develop and realize that potential. Obviously, he is playing in college right now, so that will be part of it and part of his development, but we'll keep an eye on him. And again, everydayers, we will go player by player through this year's draft picks, giving you scouting reports, expectations, strengths, and weaknesses. We will do that one pick per show until we've covered them all. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today, well, it would have been the birthday of the late Ron Stewart, the native of Calgary, Alberta, made his NHL debut with the Maple Leafs in 1952-53. Played for the Maple Leafs, won 3 cups there. Played 2 years for the Bruins, 1 for the Blues, played for the Rangers, the Canucks, the Rangers again, and then finished his NHL career playing 22 games for the first year expansion Islanders. Had 2 goals, 4 points, 4 penalty minutes, and was only a -17 in 22 games. Ron Stewart, never much of a goal scorer, but boy, was he a solid defensive forward. Actually, played in 1,353 NHL games, 276 goals, 529 points, 560 penalty minutes, add 14 goals and 35 points in 119 playoff games. After he retired, he was the head coach of the LA Kings in 1977-78. Got them to the playoffs, but they were eliminated in the first round. One of his better games as an Islander, November 25th, 1972, Islanders visiting the Igloo in Pittsburgh. Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders. Jim Rutherford, the future NHL GM, the goalie for the Penguins. And in this game, Pittsburgh took a 2-0 lead on 2 goals by Greg Polis. But then the Islanders come back. All the scoring, by the way, in the first period. The Islanders get 2 power play goals. First, Jermaine Gagnon makes it 2-1, and then with 11 seconds left in the first period, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ron Stewart, scores his 2nd goal of the year. Ed Westfall and Dave Hudson with the assist on the power play with Bugsy Watson in the box for tripping. That ties the game at 2-2, and that's how it ended. 30 saves for Billy Smith. The Islanders only had 19 shots on goal to 32 for the Penguins. For Ron Stewart, he had a goal. He was a -1. He scored on his only shot, and he did have the game-tying goal in this game. Ron Stewart, a veteran who gave the very young expansion Islanders some much-needed wisdom and experience. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off-season. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, if you have a question, comment, a topic you'd like us to discuss, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. Leave your first name and where you're from. we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long. It's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you anytime. Again, we're back on Monday, but we do start going to 3 shows a week. We will continue looking at the Islanders draft picks. We'll have some more Islanders news and keep you up to date on all things concerning the team. Have a great weekend, everybody. Keep cool, stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.